everybody. This is Trisha with Insectopia. I hope that everybody is doing fabulously this week. This week I didn't really get out and collect and see as many insects as I wanted to, so we'll try and get back out and do some type of fun hike next week. I did get my, so I have 2 pet tarantulas now, and I love them very much, and I just got them into their enclosures, so those pictures will be coming shortly. So I've been working with that a little bit. The ant colony is doing well. We have pupa, a number of pupa, and my queen is still laying batches of eggs. So those pupa haven't hatched yet. I don't have another generation. I don't have my first whole generation reared in captivity yet, but we're closing in on it, I think, within the next couple of days that will be. So I'm pretty excited about that. Other than that, yep, tarantulas, ants. I've got best beetles that I brought in. They're actually doing all right. They're actually out and about in their tub of wood right now. They seem to be walking around outside right now, so that's kind of fun. They might be looking for a little bit of rain, so it might mist on them a little bit tonight. That'll be good. So I hope that all of you are also having good bug days, bug nights, some hiking, doing some getting outside and doing some real nature journaling. So, hi Jody, hi Avea, yay! All right, so in the we have a Facebook messaging chat. And in that, somebody suggested that I should do praying mantis. And we hadn't done praying mantids yet, so they're a pretty cool one to look at and sketch and talk about. I just knew that my specimens in particular were both kind of old. So you'll notice, like, for the specimen that's under the microscope right now, its antennae are unfortunately broken off. Praying mantids have very long, beautiful antennae, but neither of my specimens have antennae anymore. These were both collected, well, the Chinese mantis on the top was collected in 2010, and the European mantis underneath it was collected in 2011. So they're both over a decade old, and have made three moves with me. So there's these specimens have traveled a little bit. As we are looking at different legs and stuff, it may not be super obvious, but I think that I've glued 1 or 2 of these legs back on. So if we see that today, I warned you guys ahead of time. Hi Deb from California. All right. So that is a little bit about the specimens. So you'll notice up here on the top, she is fairly large, right? The Chinese mantids are pretty large in comparison to the other species, especially to native species. But also, the European mantis, right here, is a little bit smaller. Let's see. So that's a little bit about them. I'm going to go ahead and throw the ruler on them. But you'll notice that my Chinese mantis is at this little bit of an angle, and so when I measure it from the top to the bottom, it's not going to reflect the entire length of the body, and I don't really want to take the specimen out of the box, because I know that I've broken it in the past. So, we're just going to measure from here to here. So it looks like from the front of the head to the back of the wings, it's about 8.1 or 8.2 centimeters. I guess if I did it right about here, you guys could see for about yourself. Yeah, to the end of the wings, it's about 8.1 or 8.2 centimeters. So it's a fairly large specimen. I figured this Chinese mantis would be the one that we sketched today. Although I left the European mantis in the unit tray because there is the European mantis has its head turned better, and so we'll be able to see the ocelli on the top of the head, and that's why I kept it. Just for, you know, bonus character observation. So, our mantis that we're going to be sketching today is the Chinese mantis. Chinese. The Chinese mantis. There we go. Gonna get my camera in focus and then turn off that silly autofocus. It likes to turn, the autofocus likes to automatically turn itself back on after I reset my program, so I end up doing that. Hey, Chaos! Alright, so the scientific name on the Chinese mantis is Tenodera sinensis, spelled T-E-N-O-D-E-R-A, and then sinensis is S-I-N-E-N-S-I-S. And something that I did today was gave myself a box to type into. You'll have to let me know if you like being able to see some of these words. I figured as I was writing them here, I know that sometimes my image down here gets a little bit pixelated and people have a harder time actually reading what I'm writing. And so I should be able to write some of our vocab words, or like, I guess not vocab, but some of the, like, the more scientific terms I can write up there. So, cool. Tenodera sinensis, it's going to be our Chinese mantis. One cool thing that we're going to see from our praying mantis is that those front legs, we can see individual leg parts on the praying mantis that is actually a lot easier to see because, like, the coccyx is super lengthened, so you can really easily see the trochanter. And I feel like we haven't really touched on the trochanter much, so I'm excited to look at that. Alright, so there's a part of me that wants to, because this specimen is longer, that I want to turn my, I'm going to turn my paper, landscape. I'm going to turn my paper landscape to sketch my mantis, because I figure we'll sketch it laterally first and then see what happens. We might end up going back and, like, looking at a front end view of the head, or, well, that's where we might end up, is looking at the front of the head is another thing that I like to look at. Maybe even we'll look at the front of the head of the other mantis. Chinese mantis might be hard to angle that way. Alright, so what you're looking at here is the front of the head, and then right here, this is the pronotum, right? The first segment of the thorax. Some praying mantids have this piece, and it's kind of widened into a shield. This one, the shield isn't very wide, but you can see that there's a little bit of an expansion on the pronotum. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to move this specimen around just a little bit. Of course it wants to do this to me today. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, my microscope image is frozen, so we're gonna reload that, and hopefully it'll come back to life. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I will be right back with this all fixed up. I believe I am all back and reconnected it. Yes, I measured it at 8.1 or 8.2 centimeters from the front of the head all the way to the back of the end of the wings. All right, so we're looking at the front of the head here. I want to kind of give you a zoom over the entire body, and then we'll get a light sketch going of where our features are going to go, and then we will come back and zoom back in, and then check out all of the individual or finer characteristics. So, looking at the head here, and then moving down the pronotum, notice that the first pair of legs, right, is connected to the pronotum, or the first segment of the thorax. And so this whole piece right here is all connected down until right here, where you've got your second segment of the thorax and the second leg. And then segment number 3 with the third leg. And I know this is really zoomed in, but this is as far out as I can zoom on my Mantis. So what I'm going to do is we're probably going to keep it on the paper for a while. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of some of the characteristics we're looking at first. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, and what we're going to do is... This is my favorite microscope image of the mantids. I really like checking out this European mantid's head because the ocelli are so prominent. Alright, so I'll be able to turn my paper back on. Oh, I've got to flip it around a little bit. Okay, so I'm pulling my specimen over in this direction. So this is what our lady looks like, and she might be a little difficult to show you while I am also sketching. So if you have a... I don't know, I figured I'd give you guys this suggestion. I know that some of us like to see the full specimen while we're sketching, so it might be a good idea to take a screenshot or take a picture of it while it's on the screen so you can also check back on the full body. Figured that's an option if you guys want. So, keeping her in mind, I hope we all have... I'm going to go ahead and give us a light sketch of the whole body. Let's see... I wish I could, but there's not enough room to get her and my hand under the image. So our head is triangular from the front, but laterally it's gonna look more flat and then pointed at the end. We're gonna make sure that it stays kind of small so that it fits on our page. And I'm going ahead and making this very, very light because we're going to be looking at it under the microscope and adding all of the special features. So our head connects to the pronotum by this little bit of this, I'm going to call it a neck. It's not, I don't think it's called a neck, but praying mantids have the ability to turn their heads 180 degrees. So that neck portion is actually pretty important for our mantis. The pronotum in our Chinese mantis, I believe it extends just a little bit over the head. That's something that we'll be able to change if you do it nice and lightly. And then we've got this first segment. That's going to be our, pronotum, which is this segment right here. And then our legs are going to be coming down. And we're not going to sketch all of the legs. I just want to give myself an idea of kind of where they're going. I'm giving myself these little ovals that overlap. All right. And then we have we have 2 more segments of the thorax to worry about. So that's about 1 and then 2. And when we're thinking about the wings are actually, the first pair of wings are connected to the back side of the pronotum. So they're actually connected right here. So when we're coming down, our wings are going to look like this, where they come over and they get wider a little bit. And then our abdomen is going to show at least a little bit underneath our wings. So you get a piece that looks a little bit like this. And I didn't used to give this overall very light sketch, but it has been helping me make sure that I keep my specimen on the paper. So I hope it also helps you kind of give you an idea of where all of the pieces are before we zoom in. All right, our middle leg has a piece that comes down, then up, yeah. So mine is going to run along the length of this pronotum a little bit. Maybe I'll pull the leg up. Yeah, that'll be better. If I pull the leg up just a little bit more, then I won't lose that line of the pronotum. So I'm going to do that instead. Something like that. And then the hind leg is going to be protruding backward. So it's going to come out in this direction. And then up, down, and then tarsi. All right, so that's going to be the overall kind of skeleton sketch of our praying mantis. And so I figure now we can go ahead and zoom in and check out some of these really nifty little features. Yeah, so Chaos is mentioning fruit flies, dragonflies, horseflies, and their complex eyes. Yes, praying mantids are known to have depth perception, right? So they can see 3D, and that isn't unique to just mantids, but not every insect on the planet can see in 3D, has depth perception like that. So that is a pretty cool feature of mantids. The other kind of fun thing, I know about dragonflies, but I'm not sure about damselflies or mantids. But I know that dragonflies, depending on where the lens is on the compound eye, some of them have like different focus levels. So, some of them are nearsighted, some of them are farsighted, and that's a kind of an interesting thing for me, is like on the dragonfly's eyes, I know that not all of the eyes are the same. All of the different lenses will have like different focus points and stuff. So it's kind of cool and super, super complex. Alrighty. So, looking up here at the head, we'll notice that at least this specimen right here, we're kind of almost looking down at the specimen, so that I wish we could get a true lateral. I angled it just a little bit. We're going to see if we can get a true lateral vision of this head. Well, it's a little bit better. I can't go any further than that or I'll break the leg I already put back together. Alright, so looking at our head, our eye up in the top, our Chinese mantid's eyes look fairly rounded. I'm going to go ahead and erase what I have because I want to make sure that there we go, that works. Alright, so our eye is very rounded. It's going to kind of almost look flat at the back because it's going to line up with the back of the head. That's better. All right, so this is the eye. It kind of lines up right here. And then our head, the eye is going to bulge a little bit off from the top, but not really from the front. So our head is going to come down like this off of the top. And then the eye doesn't make it all the way to the back of the head. So right about here on the top of the head, we have another line that comes back and runs parallel. Alright, so that's going to be about the shape of my mantis head. You can see from the lateral, we can't see the ocelli, but they do have those 3 triangular simple eyes on the top. Let's see. I just want to get rid of that. The pronotum didn't really make sense anymore. We have the labrum right here. That's going to be this first square. It's kind of the top lip of our mantis. And then I do know that our mantis has some labial pulps, so I'm going to throw those in down there. Our antenna come out from in front of the head, in between the 2 compound eyes. Right about in here. So that's where our antennae are going to come off from. And Chinese mantids have long, straight antennae. And those long, super straight antennae, we call them filiform antenna. I'm looking up a quick picture to make sure I know the approximate length. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so we are going to sketch, these are called filiform. They're filiform antenna, meaning they are in the form of a filament or long and straight. They're coming off right about here, and I'm going to make them come back. And so our antenna are going to last pretty much until they're about the length of the pronotum. So if you took your length of the pronotum that you've already sketched and kind of estimated the length of the antenna, that's what you would get. And these are long and straight, but they do have segments. So after I give myself my first line that's about the right size, I'll start at the end very thin, and as I get towards the head, try to make it just a little bit wider, and then hold that until you get all the way up to the head. And then you can go in and give the mantis many, many, many little segments in these antennae. So we pretty much never, ever, ever count the segments on a praying mantis antenna because there are so many. Not countable. Not feasible. Alright, so we've got our head taken care of. We're going to go ahead and look at that, that neck piece comes down like this. You're going to give it just a little bit of an arch in here where it connects into the pronotum. Then, from here, you'll notice that the pronotum right here does get a little bit wider. So when we're sketching this, we could come out just a little bit before we go back in. That'll give the appearance of it getting wider right here at the edge. And then at the top, we want to make sure that that stays nice and smooth and straight. I'm going to go back in and erase some of these sketch lines. Very cool. I did look at Jungle Juice Chaos. I did not get through the whole thing, but I do appreciate that even in the first couple of episodes or the first couple of pages, there's a lot of insect talk, right? Those people with insectoid, the human-like insect. Thought that was funny. So, I guess that leads to the question, ladies and gentlemen, if you had to be an insect, if you got to be an insect, what type of insect would you be? I didn't get super far, Chaos, but I definitely started it, and I will continue for sure. All right, looking at the raptorial front legs. Raptorial spelled this way. Deb would be a honeybee, so at least then you would have a whole colony to interact with. Now the question is, Deb, do you want to be a worker bee or do you want to be a queen bee? All right. We have right about here where the pronotum expands. I might even move where the pronotum expands up just a little bit. I think that, yeah, just a little bit, needed a little bit of a push. All right. And then right about where the pronotum expands, you can see the expansion coming back down right about here. That's where our legs are going to come off. So the legs are coming off right about here. Xerxes butterfly. Queen. All right, yeah, I mean, that makes sense, Deb. Spending all of your time laying the eggs instead of taking care of the brood. But you don't really get to pollinate as much. You don't get out of the hive. You have to stay in the hive the whole time. An odonate from Chaos. That's what I've always said, is if I got to be an insect, I would pick a dragonfly. Because you get best of both worlds. You have the ability to breathe underwater as a nymph, and you get to fly in the air. And so you don't have to pick one or the other, air or water. You can have both. So I thought that was kind of cool. All right, so we are looking at this pronotum, and then this is our insect leg coming off here. Now, a lot of times when we're talking about the leg segments, a lot of times we are starting at the femur, right? We are starting at the femur, because that's the first leg segment that we can see from above or laterally a lot of times. But in praying mantids, the first segment right here is actually an expanded coxae. All right, coxae is spelled C-O-X. Well, coxa is individual, and then coxae are plural. And so this segment right here, coming down from the pronotum and coming down here to what would be considered maybe an elbow-like area, that's going to be the coxae. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself one kind of straight line, and that's going to be at the wrong angle. That's going to be, I'm looking at this line right here. I'm going to give myself this line and then work the leg around it. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself one line that comes down, and then on both sides I've got a little bit of an expansion down here and right here. And we've got that ridge down the, coxae. And mine, I don't know. I almost want mine to be just a little bit longer. Yeah, that's better. All right, and if you do give yourself an angle, you want the angle to be going forward. So the front, you want to end just a little bit. The angle should be like this. All right, at the bottom of your coccyx. Because the next segment is a segment that you guys, we haven't seen very many times. And that is the trochanter. So the trochanter is right here to here, and it's essentially the kneecap. And I know that we talk about this segment being the femur and the tibia over here, but you've got a segment right here that helps with the movement, is a lot of times shaped, it's shaped like this a lot of times. So the coccyx comes in this way, the femur goes out that way, and this helps kind of give you the angle. All right, and that's the trochanter. So when we're looking at it on the microscope, it's this little segment from here, and it goes until about here. And trochanter, it's worth a mention because in pretty much any of the other insects that we are sketching, you're not going to be able to see it as well. So let's see. So it gives us this angle, and it's round on the bottom, and then it comes off, and the femur connects this way. It almost gives us like a piece of a pie, essentially. So the shape is very similar to this, and then we have the femur coming off of that. And femur is spelled F-E-M-U-R, right? Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and move our microscope image. Oh, and Deborah means queen. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that. Oh, that's cool, Chaos. I definitely have to get further into the webcomic. All right, so we are now looking at, this is the femur and this is the tibia coming down here. We could look at this leg, but you see it's at a little bit of a different angle, so we can see the top of it, but we can't really see the lateral. So this would work right about here. So the bottom side of our femur is where all the spines are. So the top of the femur is nice and smooth, and it's going to come up. All right. And then we've got a joint right about here. And then I'm going to just give myself a nice smooth femur that starts a little narrow and gets wider at the base, but not that wide. Something along these lines. I feel like I want it to get wider somewhere in the middle, and then more like this. I'm more happy with that. Okay, and so now that I've got this base shape, I'm going to go back in and add all of these spines on the femur. So coming back in, and all of these spines, keep in mind the praying mantis is trying to hold on to its prey. So all of these spines are going to be facing up. All right, so we're going to be coming in and giving these spines up. Now, there is significantly more spines than I gave, but I am just giving us a basic sketch. I'm happy with that. All right, and then we have the tibia coming down, and it might be, we're going to turn our specimen around and look at the other side. right, so from this side, we can see fairly well this segment right here. That's going to be the tibia. The tibia does have tibial spurs on either side of the femur. So if we were looking at the other side of the leg, there's another spine on this side. So we've got the femur, and the tibia kind of holds onto the femur like this with two spines. And that's one of the ways that my praying mantis has the ability to hold on to something alive while it's eating it, right? Praying mantids are major predators. They have these raptorial front claws, and they don't have any toxin, and they don't have any venom. So when they're eating the insect they're eating, the insect is not paralyzed. They are actively trying to escape. All right, we're going to pull this tibia down, and you'll notice that the tibia will kind of hook those tibial spurs into kind of where our mantis has the widest part of the femur. So he's got one fairly large spine on this side, and he's got a big spine on the other side so that he can hold onto that food. And then we've got the front. But then we have a number of tarsal segments. So you can see these guys right there. Those are still there. There are little toe segments. So this is how you spell tarsal. If you wanted to say, so we say tarsal segments is one phrase we have. And if you were going to say the actual body part right there, you can say the tarsi. And that's plural. So tarsal is singular and tarsi is plural. And you can kind of count the segments here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a fifth one with tarsal claws. So 1, 2, 3, 4 with some tarsal claws. All right, so we've got those segments. They come off of the top of the tibia, so they're kind of out of the way when they're trying to hold on to their food. And then these spines are going to point, the spines on the tibia point up also. So imagine it like the teeth on a shark, right? The teeth on the shark, the teeth are all angled backward so that it's harder for things to escape. The claws, the spines on the inside of raptorial claws are all facing up so that it's harder for things to slip out this way. All right, so coxae, trochanter, femur, tibia, tarsi. And we have now seen all of the leg segments on a pretty easy specimen to recognize. Yeah, so Chaos is chatting about the fact that there are some praying mantids that have the ability to even eat small hummingbirds and lizards. And yes, this is the Chinese mantis does this. Now, it also touches on a little bit of an interesting subject that I have seen argued many a time in local gardening and Facebook groups. So I guess it's worth talking about. And that's the difference between something that is native, something that is non-native, and something that is invasive. The Chinese mantis, right, it's not native, so it's not naturally found in the United States, native to China. But it has also been in this country for over 100 years, and it has not caused, it in and of itself has not caused any significant agricultural, environmental, or ecological problems. All right, so for something to be considered invasive, it needs to create a problem. It needs to create an agricultural problem or an economic problem where the brown marmorated stink bug we're feeding on all of our produce, or an ecological problem where they're out competing and it's super obvious and the other specimens are going to go extinct, and, you know, we're creating that problem. So, that's going to be our big differences. And a lot of people in gardening groups right now are very anti-Chinese praying mantis, saying that it's invasive and that you should be killing the egg cases. And I'm here to tell you, I don't think that killing the egg cases is going to decrease their population in any way. So you're trying to fight a battle that really almost isn't worth fighting, because they've been around for 100 years. They're almost what I would almost consider naturalized, but that is up for argument, right? Whether or not they are naturalized or not. But I would definitely say I wouldn't consider a Chinese mantis invasive, or I wouldn't want anybody to see a Chinese mantis and kill it. I think that's kind of sad. Oh, Avea mentioned that the on the raptorial legs, this section right here kind of reminds her of a sickle, and I see that. I like it. Alright, so I got this is the front leg that we are looking at right here. I figured I'd pull it over here just so that we could check this out. So, right about here, we have that coxa, and then the femur coming up, the tibia, and then the little tarsal segments here. So that's what we're looking at. And it is coming off the second segment of the thorax. So when we're sketching this, we're coming off of the edge of this pronotum, and my specimen is going to move just a little bit, but something like that for the segment on the thorax, and then another one for the third leg. And so those are that's going to be where our legs connect to. And now we've got right here. So we've got right here, this is the coxae, or the coxa. Sometimes on beetles, they're called coxal plates because they almost look like flat plates against the abdomen. In praying mantis, they protrude a little bit. Alright, so we are going to bring that coxa down in that shape. And then we're going to bring our femur forward. And I'm going to try and make it so that it doesn't interfere with the rest of this body. So when I sketch my femur, I'm going to come... Make sure that this coxa ends at that angle so that you have the ability to connect the femur to it. And then the femur... coming up, and then the tibia goes down. Keep these legs nice and thin, right? These legs aren't super wide. They don't have a lot of spines on them. Try to keep them pretty parallel. And then we've got these tarsal segments, these segments right here. And I see they're a little out of focus, but my hands are all crossed, so we're just going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So if we are sketching those, we're coming out here and going 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's still about right. 5. Sometimes I know when I start drawing tarsal segments, I have a tendency to make them bigger than they actually are because I like to zoom in on different features. So I have to actively try and not make those tarsal segments too long. Alright, I'm going back in and erasing some of my sketch lines. These light ones that I had just given my bones for. There we go. And then this hind leg, we might as well go ahead and change the focus for that so that you can see these the length on these hind legs. Army ants are a perfect example of an invasive species. Yes. And maybe I like to mention the brown marmorated stink bug, right? Because that is a stink bug that's native to China. Oh, no! She's going to need another glue job. Arg. That's okay. You can't tell just yet. I accidentally cracked her pronotum a little bit. Yeah. Right here, she cracked a little bit, but you can't see it yet, which is great. So right after this live stream, I'm going to add a little bit of glue in here to hopefully give her a little bit of support. Because if I don't, the next time she's bumped, that's going to fall off, and that makes me sad. All right, so we are looking at the hind leg. This is that plate we were talking about, the end of the third segment of the thorax. This is the coxa. The trochanter is really small, but it does exist right there, that little kneecap. You know, it happens. I do need new praying mantis specimens for my collection, and I see them every year. I just feel so bad killing praying mantids that, you know, to add them to my collection. So I don't have very many just because when I see them, I like to hold them and handle them and love them and then release them back into the wild. All right. So that's the trochanter here. And then the femur is super long. It extends all the way up here, way past the length of the body, and then comes all the way back down to be flat. That's the tibia. And then these are the tarsal segments. So in the hind leg, the first tarsal segment is very, very long. And then we have number 2 and number 3. So they don't have as many tarsal segments on the hind leg, but the tarsal is actually longer. So that's what we're looking at with this specimen. I'm going to leave our microscope here. Alrighty. So, starting here, our coxa is moving backwards. And then we have our trochanter is just kind of small. It's narrow on the top and kind of circular on the bottom. And it helps point our femur up. Our femur is going to... It's a little further up than I had expected it, but that's fine. It's going to come all the way up and then back down, trying to keep it as straight as possible. It's fairly parallel-sided. It could be just a little bit wider, I think. I'm going to go ahead and widen the femur just a little bit because you want the tibia to be thinner than the femur. So if you get done with your femur and say, I don't know how I'm getting thinner than that, you can just make the femur a little bit wider. And then our tibia is coming down, and I'm going to try and match the tarsal segments so that my middle leg and my hind leg, it's like they're walking on the same ground. So my tibia is going to be coming down, 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 and out. All the way down here. Alright, and then we are ending our tibia, and the angle on the end of that tibia is this way, right? Because the tarsal segments are going that way. And then, remember, we had a long one. And then 2 smaller segments. And then the one on the end with the tarsal claws. So those are our legs. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of these sketch lines that I've got, that I've worked in here. All right, now from right here at the end of our pronotum, this is where our wings are connecting. And I do kind of want to... I'm pretty happy with our mantis sketches so far. We do want to say that this Chinese mantis a lot of times has these two colors, right? So if we are looking... if we're looking right here, the first pair of wings, yeah, that is a separation between the first and the hind pair. So this is the first pair of wings, and then the hind pair of wings are right here. They are two different colors, and the hind wing is a little bit wider, so it extends a little bit past the outside of the first wing. We do get new words for these because we've talked about wing adaptations before, but praying mantids are an insect that we call an orthopteroid, spelled this way. It's an orthopteroid, meaning that this is a group of orders, a group of groups of insects that are all kind of related to grasshoppers. All right? So Orthoptera is the order for grasshoppers, crickets, and katydids. So when you say the orthopteroids, you're saying, all right, the orthopterans and all of the other guys that are smaller orders and closely kind of related. Things like that would be our praying mantids, our walking sticks, our cockroaches, orthopteroids. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head, are the walking sticks, the mantids, and the cockroaches. Notice that they all have simple metamorphosis, so they all have a nymph that simply grows up. They don't have a pupa or a chrysalis or a cocoon. They don't have that resting stage. And a lot of times people equate... This is kind of a funny sidebar. So a lot of times people equate termites and they say ants have to be really closely related, right? Because they're both colonial and they both hurt my house. So obviously termites and ants are really closely related. But they're not. Because if you look at the life cycle of an ant, they have a grub, a pupa, and then an adult. So they have a complete metamorphosis, and ants have pupa. Termites don't. Termites are actually closer to simple metamorphosis, where they are nymphs and they grow into adults. In fact, termites are actually a little bit weird because the worker termites are all nymphs, and the only ones that become adult are the reproductive termites. So they actually have a juvenile hormone thing going on in their body that keeps them young, that keeps them nymphs, instead of allowing them to become adults. So termites were actually, within the last decade, they did all the genetic testing on them and found that termites actually in a phylogenetic tree, or in like a tree of life, termites are right in the middle of cockroaches. So, the group termites, the group Isopterans, are actually, are now, termites are just cockroaches. Termites are a type of cockroach. They're in the order Blatodia. And so that's kind of a little fun side story that some people don't realize, is that termites are actually just communal cockroaches. Yeah, exactly. And also earwigs, chaos. Yes, the orthopteroids. Earwigs are also in this in the orthopteroids. Thank you. I knew there was another common one. All right. So in all of the orthopteroids, grasshoppers, crickets, katydids, praying mantids, walking sticks, their first pair of wings is what we call leathery. And we have a scientific term for that. They are tegmina. So this first pair of wings right here, up here on top, those are This first pair of wings right here, those are called tegmina, and that's because they're leathery. And all grasshoppers and crickets and cockroaches, all of those insects have tegmina. And that is it. I guess it's a characteristic of the orthopteroids in general. But I figured I'd give you that little bonus. Alrighty. Activate. Cool. Alright, so where I'm going to be looking at here is that my tegmina are almost going to follow the line of the, they're almost going to follow the line of the coccyx. I'm going to go in just a little bit and overlap them so that that angle isn't as strong. And I'm going to pull that tegmina back all the way. I would even go just a little bit further than your tarsal segment. So if you're lining them up with your tarsal segments, I would go just a little bit further. And this is the first pair of wings, right? So that's just the first one. But then we've got the colors, that green color that kind of is a little bit wider. So we're going to start down here. And the second pair of wings is connected to the back side of the second segment of the thorax. So it's connected right about here. So we're going to come in right about there and make it wider. And if you are coloring your mantis, you can go ahead and sketch that green. You'll see that band, it is wider at the front and then narrows towards the back. So when you are sketching it on your paper, make sure that it's kind of wide up here in the front. And then as it closes towards the back, that green line is going to get thinner and thinner. Alright, and then we have an abdomen. So the abdomen is going to start right here at the back of our thorax. And if you're sketching a lady, she's going to have a fairly large abdomen. It's going to kind of extend down just a little bit. Alright, so you've got your abdomen. Now, here's the thing with praying mantids. You can tell every praying mantid's gender from the number of segments on the abdomen. So this, let's see, we'll do it. We'll do it right here. Females, this is our symbol for female, have 5 to 6 abdominal segments. I'm just going to say segments, but these are segments on their abdomen. And male praying mantids generally are going to have 8, but they're going to definitely have more than 6. 8 segments. And I know that that's going to be a hard characteristic to tell if you are nature journaling in a field, right? So if you're out in the open and you are looking for things to sketch and you notice a praying mantis, it's likely not going to stick around long enough for you to count all of the segments. But if you get a good image, if you get a good picture, sometimes you can zoom in and count them. The other good characteristic you can use for males versus females is the size, if you already have an eye for it, right? Because if I was to tell you that the female praying mantids are generally larger than the males, I could go out into the wild and say, wow, she's big, that must be a female. But unless you've seen both males and females or have specimens to compare them against, it's a little bit more difficult to say, oh, that one is larger, without having anything to connect it to. So the number of segments is your best way to go. I'm going to come back in here. I'm noticing I still have some of my thorax segments sketched in. So I'm going to come in and erase that. Make sure I can't see my thoracic segments through my wings. And I believe that we are looking at a female. We can go ahead and check and see. I think that her abdomen may have collapsed just a little, like it deflated a little bit. So it's a little bit more difficult to see. Yeah, we're not going to be able to see it too much. But that's fine. We can look there at the top of the wings for a while. That's really beautiful. Is the female being larger than the males are species specific? No. Not as far as I know. Pretty much all praying mantids, the females are larger than the males. And that is a characteristic that does vary a little bit. So, for instance, in orchid mantids, an adult female is going to be, I don't know, about 2.5, 3 inches. And then the adult males are only like an inch. So in orchid mantids, the males are like half of the size of females. But in praying mantids like the Chinese mantis, the females are still larger, but the difference in their size is narrower. So the females are larger. They've got kind of a heavier looking abdomen. They kind of look wider. They almost look fat. Whereas the males are going to look thin and sleek. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So that last 6 segment is generally fairly small back there at the end. And then it's something that you generally can't see because it's tucked up under the wings. But praying mantids do have 2 little small sensory organs coming off the end of their abdomen called cerci. They almost look like labial palps. They almost look like palps up at the front, but they're at the end. They're at the back of the abdomen. The cerci and earwigs are adapted to pinch, right? But generally, mantids, a lot of the orthopteroids have cerci. So mantids, cockroaches, grasshoppers, katydids, they all have these cerci. And they're like these 2 little appendages at the end of the abdomen. Ah, odonates go both ways. I'd like to see what type of odonate. I'd like to see what type of dragonfly the females are. Well, okay, that makes sense. The males in odonates a lot of times have really aggressive fights over the ladies. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and sketch my wing lines just a little bit darker. Give you a zoom out form. So a lot of praying mantids have camouflage, have the ability to kind of hide in their environment. The interesting thing with praying mantis camouflage is that they're predatory, right? They're almost on the top of their food chain. They're at the top of their game, and they are still hiding. And so this is actually a different form of camouflage because it's not a prey animal hiding from a predator, although praying mantids do get eaten by birds, so they do have to worry about that a little bit. But most of the time, praying mantids are actually camouflaging themselves so that they can get the jump on their prey animals. So they actually are camouflaging themselves so that they can hide and attack their prey easier. Which is a different form of camouflage. And I was looking, there is a term for that. And I was looking, trying to remind myself of that term recently, and I couldn't find it. So if one of you guys have epic Googling skills, we should figure out what the term is for being camouflage, but not to hide from a predator, but to hide in order to attack a prey. They are ambush predators. Yes. Praying mantids don't go and hunt down their food. They don't go on searches. They will sit and wait. And a lot of times praying mantids will climb up to the tallest surface, that they can. And that is And that's how they're going to be able to grab their flying insects out of the air. So a lot of times they're going to be feeding on flies, butterflies, bees, wasps, things that come to flowers, and things that they can kind of snatch out of the air while they're seated. So they are definitely ambush predators. So a lot of us... Cool. And many of the species of emeralds. Yeah, and so a lot of times the females are larger because they need lots of nutrients to have the ability to lay their eggs and start the next generation. That's very cool. Yeah, because a lot of times when I think about dragonflies, the males are almost larger because they're fighting for the ladies so frequently. But you're right, there are some that the females are bigger. That's kind of cool to think about. Yeah, I cannot think of a praying mantis where the male is larger than the female. I can't think of one. Doesn't mean it's not out there. There is a good variety in species of mantids. All right, so here is a fun kind of after-hours conversation about praying mantids, because we all know that the lady praying mantids eat the males, right? The female praying mantids eat the males after or during intercourse. And so... There's some major benefits to the ladies turning around and killing the male. And so here's your story on the continuation of a mantis of mantids, right? So if we're thinking about it, we're going to think about it from both perspectives. We're going to think about it from the male mantid's perspective, and then from the female mantid's perspective. Then we're going to talk about what the female does, right? So the male, as an individual in the species, male praying mantids, to help them to make sure that their seed or their next generation are born and have the best chance of survival, right? The best chance of survival for a male to reproduce and start a next generation is to mate with as many females as possible. Right? So he wants to mate a little bit, and then mate a little bit, and then mate a little bit, and kind of spread the love, right? That is the male praying mantid's goal in life, is to kind of just spread the love. Now, that is another thing, is that the females are a lot lazier. So if you see them in a field, you can hold them, and you're more likely to have a female stay with you longer because they tend to not be as flighty. Male praying mantids are very thin, they're narrow, they fly all the time. They generally are going to be super active looking for the ladies. All right, so that's the male. He wants to spread the love. The female, the best chance of her continuing her generation or her lines is to get as much from the male as possible. She says, I don't want a piece, I want the whole thing, right? That's going to help me lay multiple egg cases and multiple egg sacs. I can have hundreds and hundreds of babies. So she says, if you're going to try and leave me and go and spread... she will actually turn around, and there's a nerve in the back of the neck of the male praying mantis. I say a nerve, but it's, there's a stem nervous system place of some type. And when she bites down on that, she can sever the back of his neck. That's why they say that she eats off the head, right? She can actually sever behind his neck so that he's not going to be able to leave, but he also continues the copulation. So, yeah. So she will turn around and bite that so that he's essentially dead, right? But he's still able to continue with some basic bodily functions before he passes away. And so he will actually finish with her and use everything instead of just a little bit. So he'll use the entire sperm packet, is what we call it. And then she can turn around and eat him afterwards, because at that point, he's just nutrients for the babies. And so that is the males and the females and their interactions with sex, or their interactions with procreation, right? So, the females do generally eat the males, and funny enough, the females are going to actually kill the males during copulation a lot of times, so that he doesn't pull out and leave her. That's it. Is it called aggressive mimicry? No. So mimicry is going to be something different. Mimicry is when an animal is going to be mimicking another animal, whereas camouflage is whereas this camouflage is mimicking a plant or a bark, like not another animal. Yeah, I would like to know the term. I would like to find it too, Avea. I wish I could remember it, and I do have it written in one of these notebooks, but I don't have the time to go through them all right about now. So, I'll keep looking. I remember having this problem not being able to find this term before, too. Because there are multiple different types of camouflage, like disruptive camouflage, and mimicry is actually a form of camouflage. But we're talking about, like, the behavior surrounding the camouflage rather than a type of camouflage. And so that's always why I have a hard time Googling or searching for the term. And I swear I looked for it for like an hour before I started live streaming, because I figured it was going to be brought up. But I wasn't able to find it. Yeah, exactly. If I find it, I can share it with you, ladies and gentlemen, next week. Alright, so we have the praying mantids. We got the mating thing taken care of. I always think that that's an interesting, that is interesting. We could have an insect after hours live stream where we talk about interesting insect mating rituals. There are so many of them. Alright, let's see. So we've got our praying mantis. Oh, I thought we might want to look at and sketch the head-on of our praying mantis. And I've got a little bit of space over here. Our praying mantis that we would look at head-on would be this European mantis instead of the Chinese mantis. So we were looking at it a little bit earlier, but that might be better. Let's check this out. If the specimen will stay there. Oh, that's so cool. Cool deal. Alright, so we are checking out this mantis, and instead of turning my specimen, I'm just going to rotate the camera 90 degrees. There we go. So, head on, we are looking at these two compound eyes. Right here, here, and here, those three circles, those are the ocelli, or the simple eyes of the mantis. These are front pieces of the head. Coming down from right about here on the eye and down in this direction, and then down in this direction, those are, that's kind of where the mandibles are. And then we've got the labrum, or the upper lip, right up here in the front. So we're going to start with this rounded triangular head. And, let's see. We've got two fairly large compound eyes. And they are rounded in all directions, so try not to give any part too flat. That edge is a little bit flat for me. Something like that, where you've got these large, and actually mine are a little oblong. I think that they come out just a little bit more like this shape. So we're going to go ahead and erase that other one. My eraser disappeared. That's fine. There's a silly little eraser on this pencil. Making sure these are even is always one of the tougher things for me, is making sure things on the left and the right are even. So I think that that is pretty close. I just wanted to make sure that our eyes had that almost that triangular shape to it. And I'm going to make these a little rounded up more towards the top. Yes, that's looking a lot better. Okay, so we've got our eyes taken care of. So they're a little bit wider at the top than at the bottom. We've got the top of the head, and then our three ocelli, spelled this way, ocelli. Ocelli is the plural of the singular ocellus, but I pretty much have never read ocellus. It's they always talk about the ocelli as plural. I don't know if there's any cyclops insect out there with only one single eye. All right, the end of that head, and then we have another triangular piece coming down from here, and then at the base of the eyes, these segments right here, those are actually the outside of your mandibles. Those are going to come down to a point, and then we have a upper lip. This is our labrum right here, and it comes down and it kind of gets wide here at the base. So that's going to be generally what our praying mantis heads are going to look like, where this right here is our mandible. This right here is the labrum. The upper lip, and then you've got the eyes, and our antennal segments actually are going to connect right about here and here between the eyes, but underneath the ocelli. I'm a big fan of praying mantids. Alrighty. So, this would be our Chinese mantis. This is the European mantis head. If you would like the scientific name for our European mantis, because he is a different species, this is Mantis religiosa, spelled M-A-N-T-I-S Mantis, the original Mantis genus. And then Religiosa, Religosa. I'll go ahead and put that here. Whenever I hear Eosa at the end of a word, I always think Wingardium Leviosa from Harry Potter. I just can't help it. Apposition eyes. Yeah, very cool. All right, so that's my praying mantis. I'm a fan. I gotta tell you, when I was a little itty bitty child, I went out and I was collecting grasshoppers with a net, and so I was going out and I had brought my bug net and I was chasing grasshoppers around, and I saw something flying that looked like a grasshopper, but it flew in the air longer than I expected a grasshopper to fly. A lot of times it's jump and soar to the ground, whereas this one was staying fairly parallel with the ground. I got really excited because I figured it was a new species of grasshopper that I hadn't seen before, and so I take off after this thing that I see flying towards the forest. And I catch it, and I get all excited because my next door neighbor friend is with me. I was like, all right, let's go see what we have in the net. And it was a praying mantis. I had seen a praying mantis flying through the air and recognized that those first pair of wings are very similar to grasshopper wings. And looking at it back now, it's like, oh, right, that makes sense because they're both tegmina. So they do have very similar flight patterns as some grasshoppers. If you watch a grasshopper flying through the air, you can see where their front wings kind of hold up and their back wings do all of the flying. And it's cool to see them both flying in the air because they have such similar patterns, along with cockroaches. But back then I hadn't really seen a cockroach fly yet, so that wasn't a connection that I had made in my head. Hi. All right, so that's my praying mantids story. Yes, that's so cool. And the fun thing is, all right, so the fun thing about watching them lay their egg cases is that their egg cases come out. So I actually have, there's an ooth. So their egg cases will actually come out kind of frothy. They come out as like a bubbly liquid, and that and that's kind of like a protective sponge. I always picture it kind of like a can of spray foam, because the praying mantis will lay her eggs inside of kind of a foamy liquid that eventually is going to solidify and turn into what almost feels like a thick cell styrofoam with all of the eggs in it. Now, I thought it was kind of funny because I have definitely found a praying mantis egg case and thought, it's fine, it's already hatched, I can bring it inside. And then accidentally hatched lots and lots of babies. You know, praying mantids can have up to 300 babies in an ootheca, depending on the species. But I had a friend, a next door neighbor friend, that collected an ootheca, collected a praying mantis egg case. If you are taking notes and you would like to know, ootheca is spelled this way, and it's the name for a praying mantis egg case. And it's the same word if you're talking about the egg case of a cockroach. Cockroaches also lay ootheca, and so do grasshoppers, right? So it's a term for all of the orthopteroids that we talked about. And so, I had a friend who collected an ootheca as a young child and didn't tell his mom. And then he put it in his dresser drawer, thinking that it had already hatched and that everything was going to be fine. So he put it in where he keeps all of his other safe things. Well, the praying mantis egg cage ended up hatching, and he had hundreds of baby praying mantids in his bedroom and in his dresser. And I just thought it was really funny. His mom didn't think it was so funny, but, you know, those are the mistakes or the things that we do as children, you know, as we are experimenting and learning about the world around us. Every now and again, I think it happens. Alright, so I am pretty happy with our sketch today and all of our conversations. We got to talk about adaptations and camouflage and lots of different body parts. I am also a fan of typing words up here. I'm also a fan of typing these words. I will try and stay as on top of it as I can. Sometimes it gets a little bit tricky to do all of the pieces at once, but I think we're doing all right. So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me today. I think one specimen is just enough. We've gone about an hour and a half, so I'm pretty proud of us. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here. All right, so I just want to say thank you. Oh, yes. Avea wants to know. I'm going to go ahead. Come back here really quick. I'm going to go ahead. So this first pair of wings, yes, is called the tegmina, and that's because they're leathery. Funny enough, I didn't give you the name for the hind wing, but I can. The hind wing are called membranous. So those are membranous wings. I'm going to go ahead and type out that word for you. And that's going to be our term for any wings that are see-through, any wings that are clear that we can see the veins in. So the membranous wings on the hind wing of a praying mantis, we're going to call them membranous. On the hind wings of grasshoppers and the hind wings of walking sticks, but we also can say that a wasp or a bee have membranous wings, but they have all four membranous wings, right? A lot of insects, if they have an adaptation as the first pair of wings, like a specialized wing for the first pair, the second pair is membranous, and that helps them fly. Do you know the species of praying mantis that can't stand upright? I don't. I didn't know there was a praying mantis that couldn't stand upright. Huh. I wonder how he catches his food. You're welcome, Avea. I'm going to have to Google that. All right, so we're going to come back here. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out with me today. I always enjoy answering... Excuse me. Whew. All right, thank you so much. I always enjoy hanging out with you, answering all of the insect and natural-related questions. It's these live streams are definitely highlights of my week. I seriously enjoy interacting with you and answering all of your questions. I do have a website. It is theinsectopia.com, and you can always go ahead. I've got a little contact us section, and you could send me your sketches if you want. That would be great. I love seeing your sketches. I got Deb's sketches. I want to say thank you so much. They are beautiful. I've been looking through them. And it also gives me an idea of what types of information that you are also picking up on as we are sketching. So it gives me an idea of where I have focused and things that I did hit well. Oh! Hey! I'll be right back. I've got something to show you. Here's something cool. I don't know if this is going to work with the shadow, because it's a mirror. Maybe I do it like like this. Yeah, so, that is a praying mantis specimen that I have, and you can see the hind pair of wings and how they're kind of see-through, and you can even, if you look really close, you can see that it has all of those little veins. That gives you an idea of membranous wings. And if you look at that abdomen, it's long and thin, and that definitely has more than 6 segments. So this is a male specimen. And I can tell that he's kind of thin, but also he's got more abdominal segments than a female would have. So I guess that is how I show off a camera, or a mirror. All right. I just wanted to share that with you. I looked up and I was like, I have another praying mantis specimen. Okay, so, I also teach for kids, like little itty bitty kids, 9 to 12-year-olds, 5 to 8-year-olds. I have bug clubs where we hang out and we chat about a new bug every week, and the kids can interact with students from all over the country, even students from other countries. I've got students in Canada and other places, so that's pretty exciting. You can go ahead and check that out, or if you know any buggy or nature-loving students out there, you can find the links in the description box below. I'm always happy when you subscribe because you get notifications and you get to hang out with me more regularly, and it also helps other people find me. So if you think that you've really enjoyed this and you want other people to find me, go ahead and like the video or subscribe. Both of those things help. And this right there, that's my PayPal link. I just want to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for people who have already tipped me. I super, super appreciate it. BioEquip just closed, so I just picked up some, with some of the Insectopia money, I was able to pick up some of my final insect collecting gear from BioEquip before they closed their doors the final day. It's kind of sad, but also kind of exciting. Got a lot of stuff at price, which was cool. So I just want to say thank you for that. If you've really enjoyed it, you can buy me a coffee or give me a small tip. I super appreciate it. This is what I do. All right, so hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day. I will be back here next Thursday. I know that the links are not up yet, but they will be up shortly. I promise you that. I also live stream on Sundays if you have that time available. I know some of you already come to both sessions, realizing that I do different insects every time. So feel free to hang out with me as much as you'd like, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Go out and find some bugs. All right. See you.